Hi, folks. This is the Fighting Nerd and his co-host, Jolly Roger. And tonight we're going to do a review of Marvel's The Punisher, the much anticipated Punisher TV series. Okay, first of all, I give this show an 8 out of 10. What I liked about it is what I like about all the Marvel Netflix collaborations. Good solo, good storytelling, good directing, good characterization. Right? The stories are good, but I think a lot of the times, and this was particularly true in Iron Fist and Jessica Jones, they take too long to tell the story. And this was also true in The Punisher. But I'll get to that in a minute. First of all, John Berthn's Punisher, hands down the best Punisher that has graced the screen, big or small. The actor that played Punisher in Punisher Warzone is a pretty close second. But Berthna is the best. He just is the Punisher. He doesn't use a lot of dialogue. It's his straight presence that makes the show. Amber Rose Vina as Agent Madani also does well. I think that they spent a little bit too much time on that character. But she pulls it off. She has enough screen presence where you stay interested. And Ben Barnes as Rusko, soon to be Jigsaw, for primary characters are very good, and also the even Moss Bachman as Micro does a pretty solid job. I actually thought this show would be a bit more action oriented than it was. There was a lot of action here, but I did find myself wishing for at least a little bit more action through the series, because I thought the entire series was a bit slow paced. I think they could have gotten this story told in 8 or 10 episodes. They spent a lot of time, for instance, on the Watham character. I think that was the name of the series, which was the troubled Iraq War veteran turned mad bomber. And I think this was an attempt by the writers to call attention to PTSD, and that's commendable, and to call attention to the polite plight of people suffering with that affliction. But it had nothing actually to do with the rest of the show's narrative, and it broke up the story flow, in my opinion. And it's like you've got the story of Frank's past in Project Cerberus and how this led to the destruction of his family and Micro being separated from his family. But let's go over here and tell a completely different story about another character. Way too much time on that. But when we did get to action scenes, Netflix is really, I'm starting to think, one of the few major movie and television show producing studios that understand how to do fight scenes anymore. Now, aside from the realistic as much as you can apply that term to any TV show, brutality of combat. There's no over-the-top CGI. It at least appears that the actors are doing the biggest part of the fight scenes themselves. Right? Wounds and pain are portrayed. When Frank gets the crap beat out of him, even though he is the Punisher and he is the epitome of badassery, right? He does feel pain, and when he's injured, even though he can fight on, he doesn't fight on like nothing happened after he's had his ribs caved in or has been beaten for half an hour of showtime. And that's probably the thing that I like most about the Netflix. The first season of Daredevil was their pinnacle still. And it has been kind of a gradual downhill slide when it comes to action scenes from Daredevil season 1. But when we finally got to see something in the Punisher, it was spot on. Now, as I said, the overall unraveling of how the Cerberus Project produced the Punisher and Punisher's guilt and remorse over having been duped into doing the things he did was great. And the whole use of the Madani character as a kind of a catalyst to get to that was good. I think they spent a little bit too much time on the Madani character. I don't know, maybe it was political correctness, portraying a female Persian of Islamic descent and Arab descent in a positive light. Nothing wrong with that. But it was the Punisher show. But there are times when it seemed like the Madani show. Also, I would have liked to have seen a bit more tie-in with the other Marvel shows. I understand that Punishers are freed apart from the other Netflix Marvel characters. And they had Karen Page in there fairly prominently. But I would have just liked to have seen a little more intertwined context. And I think at the end too, I kind of felt that the ending of the series was a bit unsatisfying. You knew that it was going to create Jigsaw, but the final confrontation in my mind was a bit anticlimactic. When he gets rid of Agent Orange in the next to the last episode, okay, they gave you the climax there, and then it was almost an epilogue with the confrontation with Jigsaw. So my biggest criticism about this is it took too long. They could have completely done away with the Mad Bomber plot. Got it done in 10 episodes or maybe even 8 episodes and had a nice tight story. They really didn't learn their lesson from Iron Fist. Now, understand, I liked Iron Fist. I understand a lot of people thought Iron Fist was not worthy of the Marvel Netflix pantheon of heroes. But I enjoyed Iron Fist. But, again, they could have done it in 8 episodes and not done nearly as much with the Rand siblings and the whole Rand Corporation plot. Or Rand Industries, I guess. All right. But his whole family story and what he was in in the mental institution for, what, an episode and a half? Right? They could have done the whole try to say he's crazy plot done in 15 minutes. And that's where you're kind of going with the Punisher here. I think a lot of the stuff with Micro and his family could have been done much quicker. There's a word for you. Much more quickly. Also, there were two, let's face it, gratuitous sex scenes in The Punisher. One with Micro and his wife. Well, actually, there were a lot of gratuitous sex scenes between Madani and Russo. Now, I understand that Amber Rose Riva is a gorgeous woman and, you know, wanted to give the men some eye candy, but the story just kind of stops, and they show the mutual affection demonstrated by the characters. And then after you get done with that, the story goes on. So I think that they really need, the writers for these Netflix series really need to work on their story flow. They have great stories and they have great storytelling, but they have a tendency to go off on tangents that have nothing to do with anything. So as I said, I'll give this show an 8 out of 10, based largely on Bertham's performance and the action scenes, which are fantastic. And there's a little bit of humor. They've got that good buddy movie vibe going with Micro and the Punisher towards the end, where neither one of them really likes the other a whole lot. They don't want to like each other a whole lot, but they wind up liking each other. And that was good character development. But they really, again, I'll say this, they just have to stop going off on tangents. So, bottom line on my review of The Punisher, 8 out of 10, outstanding performances, good overall storytelling, but the whole thing, the narrative could have been smoother. And the whole subplot with the PSD-riddled Mad Bomber was absolutely useless. It had nothing to do with the story. They could have taken all of that out and still had a solid story. Well, that's my 2 cents on The Punisher. I do recommend the show. But again, you can take the whole, I think it's Wolcott, but the Mad Bomber storyline, you can fast forward through all of that and still understand the story. So watch it. You will enjoy it. The performances are first rate. The overall story is great. The direction is great. The action sequences are better than 90% of the stuff you see from the big budget movies. It just needs a tighter story. And I once again bid you to remember, words make history. This is the Fighting Nerd and his co-host, John Roger, bidding you good night.